Jesus teaching on oaths, Matthew 5:33 through 37. Before this vlog, sacred oaths and vows, we talked about it and we learned that it's not forbidden to make oaths. And the reason is because people need to develop trust in other people. So that's why God allows us to have oaths. Whenever we make a promise, an oath, if a person is making this about doing something wrong, like for instance, if they say, I'm going to kill someone, I vow to do that. Well, that's wrong to do that. And that's because God's law forbids that. You should never break God's law. Now, there's a story in Samuel 25, and it talks about a woman, Abigail. And she told King David, she said, don't make a vow that you're going to kill this man. And the man was named Nabal. You can read about it here. No person needs to make a vow or should make a vow about something that's sin, or something that's not important. Like, for example, making a vow about washing the dishes or about washing clothes. That's not important. And, in the Bible, you'll notice that, having a vow and covenants, they're connected. And when you need to make a vow, it's only if it's something about an important situation, or something that's going to continue for a long time. For example, marriage, or something that happens in court. There's verses in the New Testament that people think seem to forbid making an oath. In fact, the verse for today, Matthew 5:37, Jesus is talking, and he says that let what you say be simply yes or no. Well, what exactly does that mean? Well, a long time ago, the early Christians during biblical times, they understood that Jesus did not mean that all oaths were forbidden. He didn't mean that. Paul, the Apostle Paul, he made a vow. John, he wrote about a vision that he had, his vision, where he saw an angel making a vow. Here's the verse. During the first century, during the Jewish culture, the Jewish teachers and leaders, they invented a system. And the reason was to help the people to know if they needed to keep a vow or if they didn't need to. And why'd they invent this system? Well, they thought that it would help the people, not to break the law, the rules of the law. At that time, there were Jewish rabbis, and they didn't think breaking a vow was sin. They didn't think so. If a vow was not made in the name of God, not made in God's name, then breaking a vow was fine. If someone took a vow and they did it in something that was in heaven or something, making a vow by the gold of the temple, that was okay to break the vow. That's what they thought. And people thought, okay, I can go ahead and do this. And they took advantage of when they took oaths and they made vows by other things, of other names, but not in God's name. And they thought, oh, it's okay if I break these vows. There's no problem. God can't hold them responsible for that. That's what they thought, and that's wrong. In Matthew 5:33 through 37, Jesus said that it's foolish. It's foolish to make an oath under the name of things instead of God. And the reason is because God himself is omnipresent, and that means God is in everywhere and in everything. He is far superior. He made everything. Some people today, they think that if they make a vow and they use it under the name of things and don't use it in God's name, but just things, they think, oh, well, that's fine. They think that they don't have to keep their vow because of this. Well, God's our creator. He created all the things that people use in their vows. He is superior over all things, sovereign over all things. He exists in all things. All things are under his authority. That means if a person is making a vow in the name of things, really it's under God's name. Yeah, they think it's just fine if they say that and they can break it, but it's not true. Really, if the person is making a vow under things and not using, just changing the words, it's still under God's name. Doesn't matter if they're just saying things. It doesn't mean the person doesn't have to keep the vow. No, that's wrong. Okay, now how would we apply this to our Christian lives? Well, we've learned, from Jesus' teaching about oaths and vows, and also we understand from the culture a long time ago. We've learned what? Well, we've learned that it's better not to make a vow or a promise, if we're not planning to keep it. And that's the point that Jesus was meaning, that we should not make an oath or a vow, just, an idle talk, make an oath or a vow, and it's only about something, that's of great importance. And other times, don't make an oath or a vow. It's not necessary. You need to just say yes or no and let it be that. You understand that, the truth of yes or no is what we need to say. We need to just be truthful in it and make that our goal. Try to just keep our word. Maybe some of you think that making a vow, has nothing to do with God or his name. You think you're just making a vow between you and another person. Is that true? Well, no, it's not. Every person all over the world, it doesn't matter if the person has no religion. Every single person in the world is under God himself. God is superior and has authority over each individual, including you and me. So whenever you make a vow to someone, you're making this vow in the name of God. It's under him or by him. He is involved. And whenever we break a vow, to that person, we're hurting them. We're not loving them. And God sees us doing this, and he will hold us accountable. God has already decided this, that a person who's doing this, they're not showing love for that person, especially a brother and sister in Christ, and that person is in darkness. God's decided this. Now, if this person has love for another person, he's loving them well, he'll show that. It'll be proof in him keeping his promises. It's very clear about this. The verses are very clear that point to this. God is involved all the time in our vows. This vlog is the last one about the third commandment. The next 3 vlogs, they're going to be about keeping the Sabbath. And that's in the 4th commandment. Coram Deo.